50 years of IRAs. Hey everyone, Adam Bergman here, tax attorney and founder of IRA Financial. Welcome to another episode of Adam Talks. On today's podcast, I'm going to explore and write an overview of 50 years of the IRA, all the way from September 1974, when IRAs were created by ERISA. I'm going to go through some of the reasons IRAs were created, its impact, and then I'm actually going to go year by year and talk about just the change in contribution maximum allowances that has occurred since 1975. And I think one of the main reasons why the IRA has become the most popular source of retirement. So I want to first of all thank my colleague Kevin. I'm not going to say his last name because he'd be embarrassed, but he put together an amazing list of, and I'll share it on screen. So if you are actually listening to this on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, you may want to check out this podcast on our YouTube channel at IRA Financial, which is obviously a great channel, but you'll be able to actually see this amazing chart that Kevin put together literally, I think since the 80s, which literally goes through, I'm going to focus just on IRAs, but it goes through every type of retirement account from 1974 all the way to 2024. I think it's probably the only chart of this sort out there. So I want to thank Kevin, who's obviously a great guy, super smart, and cares a lot about the retirement system. So I will share it on screen. And but before I do that, what I wanted to do, obviously, is talk about why were IRAs created. Okay, so in 1974, when ERISA was created, one of the main reasons, or there's two reasons IRAs were created. Obviously, the first was to provide, and I'm going to read this. This actually came from the congressional reports. Number one, to encourage workers without access to employer-sponsored plans to save for retirement. And two, to allow workers with employer plans to roll over their savings and retain tax advantage. So this was the setting before 1974, is that generally there was no such thing as a 401k. Obviously, there were no IRAs. So the only folks that were able to save were through defined benefit plans, which means that only large companies like GE or Ford offered these types of plans because they were very expensive to offer. And there were ongoing defined benefit rights that these companies would have to keep paying over many years. And in fact, some of these companies like GE continue to pay defined benefit payouts to folks that have left the company many years ago. The defined benefit plan actually put a number of companies in bankruptcy because of the pension obligations were just so steep in compared to the actual revenues generated by the investments. So Congress said, you know what? We need people to save. We can't have folks just focused and wholly dependent on Social Security. We need to make sure that these folks have a source of savings. So they created the IRA and the 401k. Okay, and they basically said, for an IRA, we want to give people the ability that maybe don't have access to an employer 401k, the ability to save. And they did this through offering a tax deduction for the amount contributed, which we're going to see in 1975 was $1,500. So it wasn't very significant, right? But the most important part of probably the IRA was to provide a vehicle so that when people left an employer plan, they had somewhere to park the money. Because prior to that, there was limitations on where the money could be parked. So folks would basically be forced to leave in the money into a former employer plan. So I just shared this with everyone on screen. So again, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to actually see this chart, which is pretty impressive, come onto our YouTube channel and you can just check out this chart for yourself. But if you look at IRAs back to 1975, it was only a $1,500 contribution. And it stayed at $1,500 till 1982, which went up to only $2,000. So at that point, IRAs were not as popular as they were today because you couldn't put any money away. You'll see in 2024, you could put away $7,000, $8,000 if you're over 50. So that number has gone up considerably, almost over 4 times or almost 4 times. So now from an IRA contribution standpoint, there's actually some value in starting to just make contributions on its own to an IRA, because based off compounded returns, your money will double every 8 years, assuming a 9% rate of return. And even if you're just making $6,000-7,000 of contributions a year over the next 20 or 25 years, you can have 7 figures in a tax deferred account, which you can then use to supplement Social Security or just to live off. So back in 1975, it was only $1,500. So most people used an IRA back in 1975 as a vehicle and as an account to receive defined benefit contributions made by the employer, and even 401k contributions, which started to be employed by businesses in the late 70s. But really, initially, the main purpose of the IRA, it really wasn't an encouragement to contribute, because it was only a $1,500 amount. Now, yes, in 1975, $1,500 was worth more than it is today. But still, the biggest reason, from what I've found in my research and talking to colleagues that were actually around practicing in this space in the late 70s, was that it was really used as a receiver of former employer rollover funds, specifically from a defined benefit plan. So if you look at this chart, I'm going to focus on the IRA, but you can see this chart goes back all the way to SEPs. There were no SEPs really until 1989. But if you look at the IRA, and this line over here, just highlighted. Okay, just sorry, that's the catch up. The catch up. Put this. That's why I went to law school. Not great with Excel. That's why I didn't become or get an MBA. Hold on. Okay, so let's look at the IRA limit. So I mentioned 1975, $1,500, and then it goes up in 1982 to 2000, and then it stays at 2000 all the way until really, let's keep going. Where does it go up? It doesn't go, it goes up to 3,000 in 2002. So literally from 1982 to 2002, the IRA limit was $2,000. Now the catch up started in 2002. Okay, the Roth IRA was born in 1997, so it was only a $2,000 limitation. So it's interesting because if you remember, and I do, even though I was born in actually 1975, I remember inflation in the 1980s. I remember my dad telling me that even though interest rates are 18%, that people are making lots of money in the 80s. And my dad was always a big Reagan person. Just thought the economy was at its strongest in the 80s. And even though we had interest rates of 12, 14, 15%, the economy was flourishing after, Reagan came in, Reaganomics, 1986, and really stimulated the economy, lowered tax rates, which really helped stimulate the economy. There was tons of inflation. And what's very interesting is that the IRA limitation amount stayed the same from 82 to 2002, 20 years, it stayed at $2,000, which is crazy when you're talking about 14, 15% inflation, even higher. So it showed at that time that people were more focused on using the IRA as an account to receive former employer funds and then reinvest them in the IRA than actually using the IRA as a retirement vehicle. And that's changed over the last 15 or so years. As the IRA contribution amount has grown, people that said, hey, I don't have access to a 401k at work, but you know what? Putting away $3, $4, $5 grand a year actually adds up. $1,500, 2,000, maybe that doesn't move the needle, right? In 2002, $2,000 was $2,000. It's not a huge amount of money. It's not 1975 where it was $1,500. So it only went up $500 from 1975 to 2002, which is crazy, right? And that's been one of the reasons and issues is, IRAs should be indexed to inflation. Now they are, thanks to Secure Act 2.0, but they haven't been since the beginning, which has been a big issue. And it's actually hurt a lot of Americans' ability to save. So if you look at, it goes to 2000 to 3000 in 2002, which was a strange time, right? It's after the internet bubble burst in 99, 2000. It's what happens 9/11, 2001. You have extra, which increases IRA amounts, increases the value of 401ks, solo 401ks, get employee deferrals, Roth options, loan options. The Bush administration focuses tremendously on helping small businesses, individuals, self-employed, on getting a good retirement vehicle to save, which I give the Bush administration, and this is the second Bush, a lot of credit. Because look, from 1975 until 2002, there was not an emphasis by Ways and Means Committee, by Congress, by the Senate, by the president on the retirement system, right? It was flat, literally flat from 75 to 2002. And if you look at SEP IRAs only came into being into 1989. Yes, 401ks and Keogh plans started in 1975, and that was the main vehicle for Americans to save. The problem is less than half the American workforce had access to a 401k at their employer, and that continues to be the case. It's now at around 56, 58%. So it's still relatively low. It should be much, much higher. So because the IRA limitation amount was so low, there was less incentive for Americans to save through an IRA, because what Americans said is that, hey, I only could put away $1,500, $2K. For me to get to a few $100K when I'm in my 60s or 70s, that's going to be really, really hard. So you know what? I'll take that $2K and I'll go out to vacation, or I'll do something else with the money. And that's what happened. And again, it cost Americans so much retirement savings because the incentive wasn't there to save. And basically, if you didn't have an employer defined contribution or defined benefit plan, and you weren't self-employed, you were left in the dark, because the IRA, the limitation number was so low, the max number, that most people felt it's just not worth it. What's $2,000? What's $3,000? It's not worth my time. I can never make it work. It's going to take so much investment ingenuity, so much investment luck, that I don't have it in me. I'm more focused on other stuff. It's 30 years down the road, my retirement. This is rubbish. It's not worth my time. I'm just going to take that $2K and go on vacation, or buy myself a Rolex, or whatever that person decided to do. So we start seeing a trend in 2002, a positive trend, where the government, Congress especially, said, you know what? Social Security's, we have baby boomers here, right? I don't think they realized that in the 80s and 90s, but by the 2000s, they said, you know what? These baby boomers are going to retire soon. And guess what? They're going to be dependent on Social Security. They're going to want their money. They paid into the system, but our birth rate is not as high as it was after World War II. Less folks are having babies. That means there's less people in the workforce, less people paying taxes on their payroll. We're going to have less money to pay Social Security. We better find a way to supplement Social Security. So you know what? The best way to do it is to let people save on their own. And let's encourage them to do that with the IRA. So that's why the Roth IRA was created in 1997 by Senator Roth. Another option for Americans to save, for those who didn't care about the pre-tax contribution. Why? Because it's only $2,000 at that time. Who cares? But you know what? If we can find a way to convert those funds, before 2010, it was only folks that had less than 100K were able to convert from pre-tax to Roth. But nevertheless, the Roth option at least gave folks a different retirement option to save, which any way to encourage people to save was a positive. So if you start looking at this chart, it goes from 3,000 in 2002, and it jumps to 4,000 right away in 2006. Okay. And then it keeps going to 5,000 in 2008. And then it goes to 6,000, and it goes to 5,500, excuse me, in 2013. And I remember that. It then goes all the way to 6,000 in 2019, and now 6,500 in 2023, and now we're at 7,000 in 2024. And again, the catch-up started, catch-up 0 over 50, it's an extra $1,000 now. If you look at this chart, the catch-up started in 2002. So I really see the two important dates is 1975 when IRAs were created, and then 2002 with EGTRA, with President Bush. So you know what? We need to give small businesses, we need to give individuals more of an opportunity to save. We got to increase the contribution maximum for the IRA. We got to add a catch up. Hey, if you're over 50 years old and you maybe haven't been able to max out or didn't have access to a 401k at work, and now you do, we're going to give all you guys a chance to catch up. And we're going to do it through this catch up option, which was a great idea. So if you look at 1975, 2002, and then now look at 2024, we've come a long way. And I give the government a lot of credit because at least they've realized that the only way we're going to get people to have a strong, independent retirement is if we encourage them to save. And by encouraging them to save, they've created the IRA and the Roth IRA, which are two wonderful vehicles, but we need to increase that maximum number so we can really let people understand that, hey, you can push the needle here. You can really push the envelope. And by doing this consistently over a number of years, you could get to the high six figures or even seven figures in a tax deferred or tax-free account. Whereas when it was $2,000 for 15, 20 years, it didn't move the needle. People were like, you know what? It's just, I can't make it happen. It's not worth my time. Let me enjoy my money now. I don't need to worry about the next 20 or 30 years because even if I put away 2K and maxed out, it's going to take me forever to get to a real number that's going to change the direction in my life. But now when it's at 7,000 or 8,000, if you're over 50, 6, 7, 8 years of that with some good investments could give you a really nice cushion to help you have an extra several $1,000s a year, a month in your retirement, or maybe even buy a vacation home, or maybe even help your grandkids go through college, or even pay off loans for your children. So there is no reason. I wrote a book, seven-figure million, tax-free seven-figure millionaires, because we all can be tax-free millionaires with an IRA. And thankfully, because Congress understood the importance of individual retirement, the encouragement that is needed to give the Americans the push we need to save is now a possibility, because the maximum contribution numbers for IRAs and Roths are much higher than they were just 22 years ago, right? In 2002, it was $2,000. There was for traditional and Roth, and then they included the catch up at that point. Now we have 7,000 or 8,000 if you're over 50. That's a real contribution maximum that's given people at least something to strive for. We may not all put the 7 or 8 away, but at least in our heads, we're thinking, you know what? We could. And because we could, maybe next year or the year after, I want to use the IRA vehicle to save, because at least it's an option for me. Whereas when it was a $2,000 max, it really wasn't an option, because even if I put in $500 this year and $1,000 next year, it's going to take me forever to get to six figures or high six figures, a number that I need to at least help me supplement my lifestyle, Social Security, to give me a strong and resourceful retirement. So there you have it, 50 years of IRAs. I would thank, and I have a lot of thanks. Over the last 22 years, a lot's been done. I think we lost a lot of time from 1975 to 2002 when the IRA limitations pretty much stayed the same. Yes, Roths were created in 1997, which was a great thing. But now, if you look at how far we've come over 50 years, it's incredible. And now the fact that you're going to get IRAs and catch-ups being tied to inflation, you're going to start seeing this number grow even higher, this maximum annual contribution. And I think you're going to see the IRA industry take off. And I expect over the next 10, 20, 30 years that the IRA world will even surpass the 401k world as the go-to retirement vehicle. Yes, the 401k world does have employer catch-ups, which is great. But with the IRA, you get obviously the ability to have more investment control, more diversification, and the ability to self-direct, which is much more limited in the 401k world. So I think the future is very bright for the IRA industry. At 13 trillion so of IRA money in 2024, I expect that to double in the next 6 to 7 years. Again, just based off compounded returns. You see what the stock market's doing. People are getting strong returns also outside the markets and alts. And I would say in the next 6 or 7 years, we should have 20, 21, 22 trillion dollars in IRAs and probably 100+ million IRAs. So if anything, I am very, very bullish on the IRA market. It's the best way to save, whether you do it in a pre-tax IRA or Roth IRA. The industry is literally rigged in our favor. You get a tax deduction if you're doing the pre-tax IRA. Your money grows without tax in the IRA. If you choose the Roth IRA option, it is after tax. There's no tax deduction, but once you're 59 and a half and the Roth's been open at least 5 years, everything you pull out from the Roth is tax-free, which is literally the best legal tax shelter out there. So 50 years, I'm almost turning 50, believe it or not. So my life, I guess, since I was born in 1975, I was born in June and not September, but it's almost meant to be that I found the IRA world, since we're pretty much the same age. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. This chart, thank you, Kevin. An amazing, amazing chart. A lot of work over the last 40 plus years, just every year consistently putting in all the numbers. Trust me, if you know Kevin, he's literally done this every year for 40 plus years. So if any of you have questions or want a copy of the chart, let me know. I'm happy to share it. It's really valuable, I think. Kind of shows the progression historically of every single retirement account from its inception until 2024. And in the IRA's case, I think it's interesting to see how from 75 to 2002, we were pretty static. And then the government's really been more active for the last 22 years, encouraging Americans to save using the IRA and the Roth IRA by, number one, increasing the maximum contribution limitations, which is obviously very important to give people incentive to save and also give them the expectation that they can actually generate real returns in the IRA world. So again, thank you for spending some time with me today. I hope you enjoy the podcast. This is a weekly podcast. I've been doing over 6 years of this, almost 500 episodes. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this. I love doing these podcasts. If you've checked out the YouTube channel, definitely subscribe. We drop 3 podcasts and 3 to 4 videos, including a YouTube live. So there's lots of amazing, amazing content. If you are interested in learning more about self-directed IRAs, 401ks, alternative assets, defined benefit plans, combo cash balance plans, I promise you, it's maybe not as enjoyable of watching, NBA finals like my kids would rather do. But if you want to learn, and the content here can literally not only educate you, make you smarter than everyone else at a cocktail party, but this content can actually make you rich. Literally, I'm giving all you guys the tools, how you can use the retirement system to generate tax deferred or at least tax-free wealth in your retirement. And if you do it the way we all can do it, just even if you're putting away just a few $1,000s a year, you follow the following 3 easy steps. Start as early as you can contributing. Be consistent, even if you put in less than you can because you're having a challenging, tough year. That's okay. Just keep contributing. And 3, trust the process. Be patient. You will have 6 to 7 figures tax deferred, tax-free wealth, guaranteed. It works. If you don't trust me, Albert Einstein coined compounded returns the 8th wonder of the world. This system is literally rigged in our favor. The problem is it's just an education barrier. It's not a zero-sum game. We all can do it. It's not like, oh, only 40% of the population could use a retirement system to get rich. No, we all can do it. I'm giving you the tools, the education. Please, please, hopefully you appreciate it. Tell your friends. Whether you do alternative assets or stocks, I don't care. This content's here to educate, to bridge the gap, to allow everyone to get rich using the retirement system. So thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Have an amazing day. Take care.